Hey folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back. Right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay. So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now let's get to the episode. All right, here we go. Hey, folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. I am sitting down with Meagan McCarthy. Yeah, that Meagan McCarthy. This young lady, I sound like an old guy when I say young lady. Young woman is fucking rocking it, man. She is turning a personal tragedy struggle, and she's paying it forward in ways that I bet you in the moment she probably couldn't even realize. A law enforcement victim advocate that could have rolled over and didn't. And she's swinging, man. She's swinging hard, and she's putting herself out there so you don't have to suffer the same injustices that she did. And I could just go on and on and on talking about Meagan and all the great things that she's doing. So I'll shut up and we'll hear it directly from her. Meagan, thanks for taking the time, hon.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a long time coming,
I
and
know.
I am very fortunate to be sitting here talking with you. So thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah. So this was the podcast that was never gonna happen. I mean, we talked and then we were like, okay, and then I don't know, like it's California, and so there's always something going on in Cali. Floods, uh, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria, right? And finally,
Always.
yeah, finally we're able to sit down. Um, you you kind of like just popped up like out of nowhere.
Mm.
Um, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? Like, for the listener, right? For the listener, give us the Reader's Digest version of what, how you kind of got into this space and this position. It all started really as you're a deputy with San Bernardino County SO, no?
Yeah, so I mean, you're exactly right. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, so I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in. But
Uh,
yeah, 2016, I went through the Sheriff's Academy for the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, and I went off to my different assignments, and I ended up going to Victorville City for patrol. And Victorville City is the #9 most dangerous city in California, and I loved it. I genuinely
right.
loved my job. I had great supervisors, great partners, everything that you wanted to be as a cop, you had it. So I adored it. And I was a school resource officer for a school year. My heart belonged to those kids. I loved it. I had 6 elementary schools. Best hidden gem in the sheriff's department. I
So wait
tell
a
you.
minute. So you weren't just assigned one; you had like six.
Yeah, I had six
Oh,
elementary schools I was responsible for, and
damn.
it was a lot, but
Yeah.
I loved it. That if I could have worked just in the schools, I would have. I loved it there.
You know,
So the
that's a special assignment, man, taking care of our kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. You have to have, I'm a mom, so I think I, kind of fit that persona of being more nurturing and more, attentive to young kids. And it was like the best of both worlds. I got to hang out with them on lunch and have lunch with them and read in their classrooms and watch them grow up. But then I also was there if, there was a child abuse investigation. I already had rapport with these kids, so I felt like
Sure.
I was able to play on both sides of the fence, and it was a beautiful spot. I
I was
loved
gonna
it.
say, sounds like a perfect fit.
It was. I loved it. So I remember when the school year ended, and my lieutenant called me, and he's like, "Hey, Meagan, I was supposed to be a SRO for another year, but it was my turn up for promotion. So they wanted to send me out to patrol, get some more warrants, get some more
Sure.
arrests." I understood, but I was devastated.
Yeah, I bet.
I loved being on patrol for the partner aspect because SRO was like a one man spot.
Yeah,
But
you're out on an island when you're in SRO a little bit.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I had plenty foot pursuits, running and gunning, dope guns, bad guys, but I didn't really look for that anymore. I wanted to be with my kids and doing the investigation. So,
Makes sense.
yeah, nonetheless, I was a little sad to go back to patrol, but I did. And September 4th of 2019 was the day that changed my life. And that was the last day I worked as a deputy sheriff.
Right. I saw that video. Um, if you want, I'll give the Reader's Digest version of it.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, from what I can remember, and you smack me around if I get it wrong. But like a call comes out and you're down the street.
Hmm.
You're like,
Yeah,
hey, I got it. You're like, I got my coffee. I'm good to go.
exactly.
I'm around the corner,
Yeah,
and
it was the first call of the day after briefing, and
yeah,
my partner, it was actually his beat. It wasn't even my beat,
yeah,
but he was hung up at the station doing some in custody paperwork. So I said, send it to me. I'm right down the road.
right,
And like I said, Victorville's known for being a little rough and tough, and we were used to responding to things on our own. We rode one man units,
yeah,
unless it was, a horrible crime in progress, you're responding to things by yourself. So it wasn't out of the norm
right.
to respond to an unknown problem by yourself. And that's what I
Yeah,
did.
same in Florida. We ride single cars, and listen, all right, this is going to be a shit show based on the call. You know what? I'm going to stay a block or two away. I'll wait for my backup. But this
Mhm.
wasn't that call.
No, not at all. If anything, it appeared more of like a civil issue based on what we were hearing prior to it escalating to a priority one. So it was a mom calling. She wanted her adult son removed from the house. She had allowed him to, spend a couple nights there and she wanted him gone. And then as she's on the phone with dispatch, she's still connected to the line, but it goes dead and you can hear like a scuffle in the background. You can't make out what they're saying, but you can hear something. So it's
Right,
bumped up to a priority one. So of course, based on my training experience, I'm thinking, oh my God, something's going on in that house. Maybe he found out that she's on the phone with the cops and he's assaulting her. I got to get there. So,
right.
I respond pretty promptly. I think I got there less than 10 minutes after the initial call for service. And so as I park and I walk up the driveway, the front door flies open. He comes walking out directly to me. Mom is still on the phone with dispatch and she has a knife in the other hand. So I
Right.
think, okay, well, something did happen in that house where she's in such fear that she armed herself. And, it ended up being the most traumatic and scary 5 minutes of my life after that. But, I made it out.
Yeah, you did. He fight over your gun.
Hmm.
He the gun gets discharged while you guys are rolling around. If I'm remembering the video, and I
Yeah.
don't even
So
know where did that video come from. Was that like a just some douchebag watching this go down and like just fucking
yeah. So
fuckers with the
apparently it was
phones?
a neighbor in the upstairs bedroom heard, a commotion and looked out the window and was like, oh my God, this cop's getting beat up. Let me record for YouTube. And so,
Right.
he recorded.
That's another problem, right?
Yeah, so we had fought for about 2.5 minutes before that video kicked on. We went through the whole defensive tactics, verbal commands. I tried my baton. I tried all the things. And then it kicks on with, me being punched in the face and the head. And I tell him, like a last ditch effort, I'm going to shoot you. Because I was thinking, get him to stop. The reasonable person would not want to get shot. So it
No. Right.
prompt him to stop, and it didn't. So we fall to the ground. I take aim at his head. I miss. He traps my hand above me, and we're fighting over the gun. and he has one hand wrapped around the slide and one hand on the trigger guard. So when it discharges, it malfunctions, it's stovepiped. So that's ultimately what saved my life. Both of me and him didn't know that. So he takes the gun from me. I turn to my hands and knees and I'm looking up and he's pointing it right at my forehead and I hear the trigger click. And obviously I didn't die, but my brain wasn't processing how I didn't. So I turn and I run for cover. And as I'm running, he shoots at my back as I'm running away. I'm like, okay, he's gonna come ambush me.
Right.
I had tried to find a piece of cover, but there was nothing. It was like the slick, fake wood fencing that you can't climb.
Right.
So I'm literally hiding like a puppy waiting to be executed.
Right.
At that same time, a dispatcher knew I wasn't responding because during the fight, he had unplugged my radio. So I'm trying to transmit to dispatch and nothing's going
Nothing's
through.
coming
So,
across.
yeah. So then you see in the video, 3 of my partners come down the cul-de-sac, take his attention. They get into a gunfight. He goes to the hospital and so do I. And then we wait for trial.
Yeah. So it's people that have never fought for their lives can't imagine time. Like,
Hmm.
so like we know, right? Because it's our thing to know that within a minute, man, if you're fighting somebody for a minute, the chances of you coming out of you don't get stronger the longer you fight.
Right.
And so the fact that you're rolling and engaged with this guy for almost 3 minutes now,
Mhm.
before this, like, um, and I can be super critical of women sometimes. I know you don't know that of me, Meagan, but because I'm a douchebag alpha male who has just finally grown up in his 50s. I'm that guy. Um, Huge respect for not only winning, right, like staying in the fight, because um I don't think people understand that you don't have an option.
Mm.
Like, if you lose, you die.
Right.
Like,
And that
this
was,
isn't, MMA. Nobody's blowing a whistle. Nobody's tapping. Nobody. And so, when you're fighting for your life, you winning is the only thing that can happen, because taking a loss means you die. And so,
absolutely.
like,
Yeah.
big balls, kid. Like, I really, and that's a shitty way. It's a shitty way to, spend the day, but you ultimately you won that deadly force encounter. Um,
Yeah.
and so there's a whole bunch of baggage that goes with that. Um, and without doing some sort of psychological deep dive on all that, because I know you're actually going to school now,
Mhm.
um, in psychology, right?
Yeah, I'll have my degree at the end of the year, and my hope is to be a culturally competent therapist for first responders, somebody that gets it, that has been there, and
Right.
to try and, use almost the last 5 years of my life as a guide or a help for those that are still in the field because I don't think that what happened to me happened for the reason of retirement. I don't think that
Right.
I went through what I did for that to be the end of my chapter, the end of my life. It was genuinely placed on me for a bigger reason. And I felt as soon as I came out of the trenches of my own mental health, I said, okay, well, we have a problem here with the stigma in first responders. I'm going to go and I'm going to give back. So
Right.
that was the only way I could because I wasn't done, working. I'm 31 years old. Like, what was I supposed to do?
Yeah. No, I think that's perfectly put. Um, Listen, I'll make this argument with you now, um, that the impact that you'll have in doing this will be far more than it would have ever been if you had stayed a deputy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so you survive that. Fuck that. You win, right? You win that encounter, and now we got trial.
Mhm.
We got trial. And this is, you know, this is vindication now. This is like this guy's gonna pay for trying to kill
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah. That's
Um,
what I thought.
yeah. And so, if you could take us, like, kind of just through that, because I think for the listener that isn't familiar, I think it elicited anger and heartbreak all in the same, like all in the same. They both occupied the same space, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to put it. I remember spending years preparing for trial, like working with my therapist for years to get ready to be cross-examined and go back through all of that because I had done so much to forget it. Now I'm taking everything I did
Isn't
and putting
that
it into work.
something?
Yeah, I'm like, my brain,
Oh,
what do you mean now I have to go and give explicit details about things that I have spent years working on to forget. So nonetheless, I did it
right,
and
right.
I don't regret it, but there was a lot of things that happened during trial that were very scary, not just because I was a victim of a crime, but for the institution of law enforcement. I mean, to sit up there and genuinely be villainized for being a cop and to hear the judge and the jury genuinely say that, well, you signed up for this, so you do not
Yeah,
get to be a victim of this.
yeah. That I can understand a an intellectually struggling jury, having, maybe seeing too much TV and coming up with some ridiculous, like with OJ, we had that jury nullification, right? They completely threw out the law and they just, well, he's a likable guy and he did right. I can see obviously that bullshit happens,
Right,
but somebody sitting on the bench, right? Like a judge, somebody who's supposed to be an advocate for the law, for right and wrong.
right.
Um,
It was scary because, as a law enforcement officer, we all take an oath to uphold the Constitution and law and order and, service above self and all the things. And then I'm sitting up there and I'm looking around this courtroom and the judge, I'm within earshot. Obviously, I'm on the stand. I was cross examined for 3 days by the defense attorney, and they're going back and forth on issues. And I hear the judge objecting and ruling to things that were straight up prejudicial against me. And she's supposed to be the highest authority of keeping all of that out of the court. I mean, what happened to a fair and impartial trial for everybody? Like, does my Sixth and 14th Amendment and the Constitution not apply to me because I wore a patch and a badge? But I'm listening to what happened in real life, and then I'm sitting there like, how can I continue to sit here and be re-victimized, villainized over something that I didn't want to happen? I'm having to defend myself now. And then this judge and the jury both are looking at me like I wanted this. I asked for this.
it's and that that scenario, and this, which is, I think, part of the reason why you've become such a powerful advocate. That scenario plays out more times than people realize. It's just, I would like to say that your situation, oh, it's California, they don't know what the hell they're doing, they got their heads up their ass. But yes, to all of that, but that plays out in courtrooms from Florida to Alaska, from Southern Cali to Maine.
Yeah.
Um, a general disregard for the rights of the men and women that are out there protecting the people.
Yeah. I mean, and I remember going home and being destroyed for the trial lasted for almost 3 weeks, and I remember every single day being like, I just worked so hard for literally nothing. Like, I could tell sitting in the on the stand, I'm looking at the jury because that's who we're supposed to speak to, and
Yeah,
some of them are scowling at me, shaking their heads, scoffing. I'm looking, recounting the moment where I feel like I am about to be murdered, and the suspect is smiling and nodding at me. And I'm looking at the jury, looking at him, looking at like, does anybody see this? We had two confessions. The suspect waived Miranda and confessed twice to trying to kill me because I was a woman and no woman tells him what to do.
right.
The judge
Because right,
the
right.
judge wouldn't allow the jury to hear it. She struck it from evidence.
Yeah.
Why?
And so
Why are we perpetuating this against our cops? I don't get it.
we so you You get victimized on the street, right? You win. You win. You get victimized again by the system that's supposed to protect you and defend you.
Exactly. Yep.
Listen, I expect the guy to try to kill you. Like, that's his job. He's a piece of shit. Um, he's, that's what they do. That's what criminals do. They have no respect, no regard for life. And, you're just some dumb bitch who he ain't going to listen to, and he's going to
Right.
kill you. Okay, cool. That's your role. My role is to make sure you don't do that.
Yeah.
The court's role is to hold people accountable.
Yep.
And they didn't. How did that play out? I can't even imagine 3 weeks on the stand, or during that process. And this is what happens to good people. Like, you start doubting yourself. Like,
Mhm.
well, maybe I am some of those things that
Mhm.
they say, because you're a good person, right? And so good people don't respond well to being attacked by institutions.
Right.
Um,
I mean, the
oh,
hardest part for me was August of 2021, I tried to kill myself. And
oh,
I had come to the end of my rope with trying to fight. I was fighting the department, fighting the county. They cut my benefits, wouldn't give me, medical benefits for my physical injuries. So I end up having to sue the county, and I'm tired of
wait,
being deposed.
let fucking time. Oh, Megan, come
Yeah,
on,
yeah, I know. It's
come
not
on.
pretty, but it's real. And this is what happens when, people are in critical incidents and they're not taken care of. But, I was so tired of fighting that I thought that that was the best option for me. And fortunately, I'm still here. Obviously,
Yeah,
it didn't pan out, and I'm thankful for that. But
right.
when I had spent 4 years getting ready for trial, almost 4 years, and
Yeah,
then basically the judge and the jury and the criminal justice system said that what I had been fighting my brain for the last almost 4 years never happened, because if he didn't get found guilty of attempted murder, then what happened to me? He broke bones in my face and my hand. I have chronic back and hip injuries that I have to go get, injections in my hip every 3 months just to survive. And I am, medically retired for PTSD. So all of these things happened to me, and I know they happened, but now I have a court saying you're not a victim. So
yeah.
then what do I do?
Megan. It's just the way it goes. It's just the way it goes, kid.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
this is.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about the. So I lose my shit when people talk about um organizational betrayal, like what they define as organizational betrayal. Like,
Mhm.
not getting your shift pick, that's not organizational betrayal.
Right.
Right. Being injured in the line of duty after being violently assaulted and requesting that your agency um provide you the benefits that you should receive and the treatments that you receive, and them not.
Mhm.
That's organizational betrayal. That's them turning their back on you. I didn't know that part of the story, Megan.
Yeah, I
um
remember one day I got a letter in the mail saying that they no longer were going to authorize any more therapy sessions for me because I had reached my max of 250 hours, and I had reached MMI, which is maximum medical improvement. So
yes,
obviously not
MMI.
working, you're not getting better, so you don't need it. And I'm right in the thick of my therapy. This is like 2022. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, there's no way. Well, so then I go try and go to my private insurance. Well, it's a workman's comp issue. You have to go to workman's comp. So I'm like, nobody will help me. And we wonder why there's an epidemic of people that feel like this is the best it's ever going to get because we offer them no help.
No, that and that's the thing. People don't understand that, like, workman's comp is not your friend.
No.
They're loyal to the system, to the agency. If they can reduce benefits, payouts, and if they, you know, they're not your advocate, right? And
Hmm.
I think you, right? I think some of the things that you found out in a really shitty way is you need to be your own advocate.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons why I went so public after the verdict came out because, like you said, this is happening all over. I knew if it happened to me, it had happened to somebody else. And lo
Right.
and behold, just in that same courthouse, I was the third deputy that this had happened to. The only difference is I get a pension, not a paycheck, so I can say what I want. The
Right.
others, they still have to work for the department. They still have to provide for their family. I get it.
Right.
So the least I can do is go and try and speak out for those people, be a voice for the voiceless. It's not okay. You can't give your life for the public and then have the public turn on you. I don't stand for it. I don't buy
Doesn't
it.
work that way. So for the listener that doesn't or didn't know the outcome of that, you go to trial and some very shocking results come from that, which is the part of the motivation for you just fucking taking the gloves off. Um, you, you're at the trial, things are wrapped up, and what's the verdict here?
Well, it took the jury about 3.5 days to come back with a verdict, which we know that's
Yeah,
genuinely not a good sign. So my husband and I decided to skip town, and I was like, I cannot even be home right now. I just got to go. So
good call. Hey,
yeah,
good
so we
call.
went we went
Yeah,
out of state and we went on a little mini vacation and
good.
just we're waiting by a pool. So finally comes out that he's not guilty of attempted murder of a police officer, not guilty of assault with a deadly weapon causing great bodily injury, not guilty of obstructing or resisting arrest, and then the jury hung on removal of a police officer's firearm, and I can't remember the other two, but he was
Right.
originally charged with 6 crimes. So they hung on three, or they found him guilty of negligent discharge of a firearm, which is a misdemeanor. So the day after, he was released from custody, no probation, no parole, slap on the wrist, off he went.
Um, yeah. And so left released to do this again.
Hmm.
Had absolutely no, let's I don't know if it's lost on people that had absolutely had he known how to clear a malfunction, you wouldn't be here today.
Right. The only reason why I'm alive is because of a malfunction, not because he decided to spare
No,
my
he
life.
was fully intent on killing you and executing you.
And like I said, he gave two confessions. He gave more details about wanting to kill me than I gave to homicide. He said he was, you know, shooting at my back and it was a perfect aim, perfect position. He fires the gun. He laughs and says, I have her gun, all of this stuff. Just derogatory, gross things to say about another human being.
Sure.
And the judge knew this. The
Mhm.
judge knew everything he
What
said.
who's the is the judge still sitting?
Yes, she still is. Her name is Miriam Morton, and she's in the Victorville Superior Courthouse. And, I still don't really have all of the answers like I wish
Right.
I did, but one of the things was the judge made it her own determining factor that he was under the influence of anesthesia and was not coherent. Mind you, I just got the report, the full 700-page report in January.
Yeah.
When he gave that first confession, he didn't even have surgery until the following day.
Right.
So, we take people's statements under drugs and alcohol, no problem. But this guy who she's not an anesthesiologist, she doesn't understand those things. But then my attorney, she never called in any experts. It was me and my two partners that were on the stand. She didn't call in one expert to have my back.
Mm,
So there were so many things that happened in this trial that were just inexcusable that it
mm.
makes me want to gouge my own eyes out. But
Yeah.
that's part of the
Yeah,
reason
but
why
I
I'm
always I
standing up.
always I always think it's better to gouge other people's eyes out and not your own.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Okay.
0 for 1 in the fighting realm, so
Yeah. Holy smokes. So that's that's a crazy story. Like, listen, Megan, everybody's got a story.
Mhm.
Everybody's got a story.
Right.
It's what do you do with your story? And that's the part that I'm so excited about because, like we said before we officially launched, like you could have went away. You could have stayed on vacation. Roger
Mhm.
that. I mean, you just could have said, I'm gonna lick my wounds, I'm gonna heal, and I'm gonna um, but that see, you doing that doesn't help anybody else.
No.
And that's what you're about. You've got this servant heart. So when I introduced you, I said law enforcement advocate, victim advocate, and somebody who is very much a part of political reform. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but is there a statute or a law on the books in Cali that allows juries, I'm gonna fuck this up, allows juries to um not treat law enforcement officers differently than they would regular citizens? Am I butchering this, or talk to me?
No, you're 100% right. And that was one of the things we found out after my trial when we talked to the jury foreperson was Assembly Bill 3070, which is California Assembly Bill. And what that did was prior to Assembly Bill 3070, you're not allowed, as a potential juror, you're not allowed to have bias towards any specific ethnicity, gender, religion,
Right,
so on and so forth. Well,
right.
law enforcement used to be protected under this ruling called Batson Wheeler, and it was a Supreme Court ruling, and it gave protection to law enforcement. Well, after the summer of chaos of 2020, a California Democrat decided that law enforcement did not deserve to be protected anymore, and they constructed Assembly Bill 3070. So it went into effect a year before my trial, and the defense attorney and prosecuting attorney could no longer strike a juror for expressing bias towards law enforcement. So 5 out of 12 of my jurors had this bias towards me. They thought I engaged in prejudicial acts. I was racist. They didn't trust me. So I was doomed from the get-go.
And normally for the listener, like, that would not be allowed. That would be grounds for dismissal from the jury.
Absolutely. It's a violation of your 14th constitution right. Like you don't get to have a bias towards a person
Right.
based on a
I
protected
can't I can't be a potential juror if I'm questioned about well, I don't like green people. And the person that's on trial is green. Okay, go away. You're not allowed to be on this panel. You can't
yeah, it's
have
an
any
implicit bias.
implicit bias, right? Because that's a basic fundamental tenet of our judicial system, is it not? I mean,
Absolutely. Well,
um,
California decided that law enforcement did not deserve to be protected. So that was, I think, ultimately what really swayed my trial. I mean, like I said, we had so
right,
many other factors. It's really hard to point the finger at one.
sure.
But having 5 people out of 12 that already hate you probably isn't a good
It's
start.
not a winning hand. No.
No.
I mean, and so, like, you find out about that after, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so that, I mean, that must have gotten you all jacked up.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely the icing on the cake to find
Right.
out that, we had the evidence, we had the video, we had the audio. Like, what more did these people need? So, like you said earlier, I was sitting there like with self-doubt, like, man, maybe I did do something wrong. Like maybe it was my fault. Like, I don't know. But
Maybe
then
I didn't get beat bad enough.
right, like would it have counted if my back actually would have gotten shot? Like, did I need a bullet hole? Maybe then. But to find out that it was something like an occupation that denied me my right of being protected, that is when I said, okay, I am going to go public. Anybody that will give me the chance to hear about this bullshit, I
Yeah.
am going to speak and I am not going to stop. And I remember my PR guy back in the summer, he said, Meagan, this is a great story. It's going to last about 10 minutes and then people are going to move on. And I said, absolutely not. I am going to keep talking about Assembly Bill 3070 and what happened to me until something is done about it. So here we are. Next month is a year, and I'm
Okay.
still talking about it.
Good. As you should. And that's not the only thing you got going on. Like, um, talk to me about, and I know your little humility button's gonna kick in. Let's not press that button yet, okay? Talk to me about all the great things you're doing um, for our men and women in law enforcement, and and some of the strides that you're making in some of these different areas. Because I see you all over the place, um, and I also want to talk a little bit about some of your competitive shooting, maybe,
Mhm.
maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So talk to me about some of the things that you've got going on with so do you have legislation in place to I'm I think I got hit in the head earlier, to recall or remand that House bill.
Yeah, so actually next Tuesday, April 16th, I'm flying up to Sacramento to testify in front of the California State Assembly. And what I did with, in tangent with Assemblyman Bill Asaley, he's a Riverside Assemblyman, is we came up with Assembly Bill 3039, which would remove the anti-police um, sentence basically in Assembly Bill 3070, and it would allow police officers to have a fair and impartial trial yet again. So we announced this bill in February, and so now I'm going up next week and I will testify. I'll have 2 minutes to share my experience and why they need to vote as a yay. And fingers crossed that it will
Right.
go to the governor's desk and he will sign it into law. And then from January 1st of 2025, no police officer in California will ever have to deal with that again.
That is, I love that you're, listen, you're not just waving the flag, kid. You are doing it. I'm very proud of you. Um, I just thought of something. Like, you were the victim in this case, as far as the state was initially concerned. What if you were a subject or suspect?
Yeah.
All right. So listen, if I'm a police officer in California and I'm accused of excessive use of force, they're going to allow people on that jury who've already made their mind up about me.
Well, that's the scary part of Assembly Bill 3070 is
Oh, wait a minute.
January January of 2025, if Assembly Bill 3039 does not get voted in, will be allowed in civil cases. So we're talking those, mark my words,
Ooh,
agencies will go bankrupt over Assembly Bill 3070 because, like you said, excessive use of force, shootings, even just civilians don't understand. And when I go and I speak about the dangers of this bill, people don't understand that. Say you are a civilian and you get into a DUI, and I, as a police officer, come and I give the report. And if you're in a civil case with this other person that hit you, and I give the report and people don't trust what I say, now you potentially don't get the benefits and the
yeah,
justice that you
it's a
deserve.
huge ripple effect by
Yep.
allowing this nonsense.
And the thing with Assembly Bill 3070 is it was snuck in within 12 minutes of closing session of the entire year. The governor had hundreds of bills to sign. He signed it. It went into effect. I don't think they had any idea what this bill was going to do. And people sit there in California and they wonder, why are our crimes exploding? Why are so many dangerous people getting rearrested? We have Prop 47, AB 109. I could talk for days, but Assembly Bill 3070 is not allowing those who do harmful things against police officers to be held accountable. So then they're going to go re-victimize the community.
Yeah, and then everybody's scratching their head, going, oh, this is, oh, this is horrible. Well,
Yeah.
fucking stop electing people that that sponsor stupid bills like this, and start supporting. Listen, um, I see. I had to bite my tongue. I had to bite my tongue, Megan. It's the first time I had to do that this whole conversation. So, anyways, getting back to what we were talking about, the that's one thing. You're going up to Sacramento.
Sacramento, yeah.
You're going to Sacramento. They're going to give you a couple minutes. Um, I've noticed you've been doing a lot of speaking, um, and you've really got this a network of conservative politicians that are very supportive of your mission and everything that you're doing. What's the consensus, Megan, going up to Sacramento?
Well, I have a lot of support and I'm really thankful for that. And we're really hopeful that, people will put away all the nonsense. This is bipartisan. This isn't something
Right.
that people should even have issue with. It's literally protecting the communities that we live in. And, I'm flying up there with the sheriff of San Bernardino County, Sheriff Dykes, and he'll be accompanying me, and we'll having, some other department members for some
Good.
support. But, I'm very thankful that just by me standing up for myself, I have built a community of people that genuinely want the best for me and my
Right.
family and support me in all my endeavors, which is just so cool because I never
Yeah.
thought that was going to happen.
Yeah. It's that's the validation, right? Like that's the you didn't get it through the courts. You didn't get, but because you haven't quit, because you're a fighter and you've realized this second chapter is really the calling.
Mm.
Um, I think that happens organically because when people see somebody who's genuine, who's trying to right a wrong, and to make sure that other people are protected. I mean, it's hard not to support and get behind somebody like that. And I think that's why you're seeing some of this support and success is because you're doing. You're not going to have somebody else treated the way you were treated.
Right. That's basically what it comes down to is my husband still works for the same department that I used to. My sister works for the same department that I used to. I have so many friends, whether they're just virtually or people that I knew that I used to work with.
Right.
This is more than just about me anymore. This isn't about me. Double jeopardy exists. I'm not going to get my second day in court. I recognize that. This is
Right.
for everybody else that deserves to feel like their lives matter. And I didn't. I struggled with that for a long time and
Bet.
nobody needs to feel that way. So if
Right.
I can just take, at the end of the day, if some people 3039 doesn't go through and nothing changes, at least when I die, I can tell my kids that I tried.
Yeah. Listen. Living a life of meaning and purpose. Right. I mean, and you always have, but this is now it's personal. Like now it's
Yeah.
personal. Now it's personal. So you're going up. You've got that going on. Um, what's big shot on Fox now? I see. The hell's going on, kid?
I
Huh?
don't know. I don't know.
What are you doing, Megan?
I don't know. They must, need somebody to fill in, but
They must need somebody to fill in. Yeah, there you go. You're
Fox
funny.
has been amazing. They were the first news outlet to really give me a platform to stand
Yeah,
on and genuinely cared about what happened to me, not just because they wanted, a quick story. If it bleeds, it leads, but they genuinely care about me. And
good,
I felt it. I felt it with the producers, with the people there. Everybody was awesome. So I'm very
good,
thankful. Now I'm a contributor for Fox News at Night, which is the West Coast Bureau with Trace Gallagher. And I go up there whenever I can and whenever they need me. And I just share
nice.
a little bit of insight. And yeah, it's like you said, it's organic. I never in 4 million years thought that I'd be
Sure,
in this position, but I'm very thankful for the people I've met along the way.
that's awesome. And listen, networking and getting people behind this movement, that's how it becomes successful, right?
Right.
Yeah, just think about all the jacked up. Think about Black Lives Matter, that whole movement. It was successful because they were loud and they made a lot of noise. The philosophy was ridiculous. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. They made a lot of noise. And unfortunately, in this society, it's not the silent majority that gets things done. It's the very vocal minority that gets things done. And I know I'm gonna circle around where it's gonna make sense, but you're the vocal minority right now, if that even makes sense. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I remember telling my husband like at the beginning of this, I said, "I'm going to bang on every drum and every
yeah.
door until somebody listens." And I don't mean listening to me like I am not for the trauma dump. I'm not for like spewing my trauma diarrhea on
No,
everybody. Like you
absolutely
said,
not. I don't get that at all. I mean, you intentionally, like, I had to pull that shit out of you. Right, because
yeah,
that's not the story.
no, I mean, like you said, we all have a story. We all have critical incidents. We all have
Right,
things that we could tell, like, whoa, thankfully that wasn't me. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here
right.
for actually taking what happened to me and doing something about it. And, if people stay silent on things, they become a part of the problem. And I refuse to sit by and be like, wow, this assembly
How
bill is
about that?
horrible. But what am I doing about it? If I don't stand up and actually do something, then I'm a part of the problem for when, God forbid, my husband is on the stand and it happens to him.
You got two choices: be part of the solution or part of the problem. And silence is part of the problem.
Yep, silence is not safe. That's what I always
No,
say.
that is all. I love it. Um, so you got that going on. What other little endeavors do you have going on there, young lady?
Well, I'm writing a book, so that'll be out hopefully the end of the summer, beginning of fall. And I'm
So wait
dabbling
a
in.
minute. Is the law enforcement life coach sometimes heroes need help podcast getting some sort of exclusive here? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, maybe so. I
Oh
haven't
my
publicly
God,
said
Meagan.
that yet.
Oh
So,
my God. Do you have a title picked out and all that yet?
yes, but my publisher won't let me release
All
it. So
right.
I got to
Well,
keep that one close to the
all
chest.
right. No worries. I understand. I understand. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's cool. And I'm working on a couple of other little things that I can't really talk about yet either. So that's annoying.
Understood.
I hate those responses, but like I'm just taking it day by day.
You
I'm
do you.
blessed. I'm
Yeah.
blessed to take my daughter to school every day. I
Isn't
hang
that
out with
great?
the kids. I'm just seeing what's in store for me.
Good. I mentioned a little earlier. So I saw a couple videos. I've got a buddy named Ark Levy who is a sponsored IP. It's about all those letters, like
Yeah.
hot shit shooter. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what's this? What's going on here? Something that you enjoy to do? A little recreational shooting?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny and it circles back to my incident, but I swore I would never touch a gun again. And my husband and I back went before my incident, we would go shooting all the time. Hobby, part of my training, obviously I took it
Sure.
serious. And so afterwards I told him I'm never shooting a gun again. Like, screw this, I'm done. And he
Right.
said, no, Meagan, like we're gonna go and you're gonna shoot. And I remember bawling hysterically crying as I'm shooting. Like
Yeah.
I went through a magazine and I was basically on my knees losing it. And I would go every couple months and shoot and just be like, okay, not really into it.
Right.
And then I started to realize that if I gave that up, I was giving up to what happened to me and I was
Yeah.
letting it win. And I said, okay, you know what? Actually, I'm going to get better and I'm going to go compete. So now I dry fire 5 days a week with my husband. We go once or twice a month to competitions. I'm no grandmaster by any means.
No,
I
but
am no
come
expert,
on.
but I'm putting myself to be vulnerable, to grow and to be better and to prove to myself that, it's just one more thing that I rose above.
How do we grow? Right. We become comfortable in uncomfortable situations. We put a you didn't have to. You intentionally put yourself in that situation.
Yep. Yeah. I
Nothing
mean,
but growth from that.
yeah, I told myself that I was
Good.
not going to be a victim. Like, yes, I was a victim, but I didn't want the victim mentality. I didn't want to go around and be like, woe is Meagan. Like, I can't, back in the day, remember when we used to shoot? No, it's okay. Well, we're going to go. When's the next
Right.
competition? Like, let's go. Let me prove to myself above all that I can actually be better.
That's awesome. And listen, that philosophy is gonna it is paying and will continue to pay huge dividends to you moving forward. Um,
Thank you. I hope
you know,
so.
yeah, no, fuck you. You're not taking that from me.
Yeah.
I don't know who you think you're dealing with, but no, fuck you. Um,
Yeah. Like
uh,
I said, there's nothing like a woman scorned.
oh my
So
God. Yeah, I love it. You know what? I'm excited that you've got all these things going on. I'm just so happy that you made a decision to
mhm.
embrace this fucking shitty situation. And you know what? Like I said, nobody would have blamed you, man, if you went away like a little mouse and you
Mhm.
went and you just, 2.3 kids, white picket fence, go to Florida, during the winter. What people are like, oh, it's all good. You don't know what she's been through. And your decision was, yeah, that was that, but this is me now,
Yeah.
stronger, right? More aware. You've attacked this um mentally, emotionally. I just love it. Meagan, if we want to follow you, we want to, see what you're up to. We want to support some of your initiatives. How do we do all that?
Yeah, I would appreciate it if anybody wants to follow along or, just be a part of the community. I'm on Instagram, so it's my name, Meagan McCarthy with 2 underscores if you want to follow along there. I also am on LinkedIn. I'm on X. I'm not very active on X because I feel like I don't get it, to be quite frank. I know they say I'm like a Gen Z or millennial or whatever, but I can do Instagram, but for some reason Twitter is just forwarded
Okay,
to me.
that
So,
makes two of us because somebody told me you need to be on. I go, yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
I'm on the LinkedIn and Instagram and a little dabble with the Facebook.
yeah, same here.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
didn't click for me. So
Yeah, I don't know.
mostly, yeah,
All right.
mostly I'm on LinkedIn and
LinkedIn and
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Awesome. Something, right? I want to ask you. So you've shared a lot and I really appreciate it. And I love I love that you're not a victim.
Mm.
I fucking hate victims. Listen,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I listen, it's sad, it's sorry, but no. See, no, because like you have a choice. You have a choice. And I love that you've embraced this woman warrior, fuck you, get out of my way choice. I love it. Something to leave us with, if you could.
Well, I would say, if you're in law enforcement or you're thinking about getting in law enforcement, just recognize that law enforcement isn't everything. You're still a human being.
Mm,
It's an occupation and it's great to be all in, but realize that once we get out of our own way, there's a lot more to life. Deal with your critical incidents, deal with your stress. A mentally healthy cop is a good cop. We don't
100%.
need any more people out there doing dangerous things for no good reason. So
Mm,
if I could just take one thing that I've learned over the last 5 years is know that it's okay to ask for help and be vulnerable because there's so many other people and beautiful things in the world that what you will benefit from. Take it from me. I'm a prime example of post-traumatic growth. If people aren't familiar with Richard Tedeschi and post-traumatic growth, go Google it right now. It is real. I'm a better version of Meagan than I ever was before. I feel better doing what I am doing with my diagnosis of PTSD or whatever you want to call it than I was when I was pushing a patrol car. So
mm.
for people that think it's the end all be all, it's not.
Ladies and gentlemen, Meagan McCarthy, I'm really happy to have met you, happy to know you. Um, I think our lives are better for it, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And that is that, kid.
That was great.
Awesome. I really